Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, an inspired conversation space between Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner on the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness.
We keep our conversations honest, our experiences real, and our philosophies exploratory. We believe that in order to raise incredible humans, we first have to raise ourselves. We know that in order to rock the family, you've got to nourish the mother. If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively, head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper. And for all live-streamed pre-release podcasts and all our free content, head over to our free Facebook group, Nourishing the Mother with Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner. We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we are so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner, and we've got a little bit of wild weather here today, so apologies for those of you that love a perfectly clean audio. There might be a few sketchy bits, and we're asking you with the deepest amount of compassion just to, sail on through those moments as we proceed today with a very juicy topic conversation, which is how me can I be at Christmas?
And it's juicy because I think this is a struggle that so many women and mothers go through at this time of year, which is, can I really be in my truth at this time of year, or am I going to be wrapped up in and swept away by the emotional current of my family?
Totally. And I think it's worth noting too here that whilst our podcast centres mothers and motherhood, there's plenty of fathers and men that struggle with this same experience of authenticity versus performance, and particularly trying to navigate who they are and how they be as an authentic human that perhaps is slightly different or has different needs, desires, wants to the family unit or system. And that conflict can be incredibly difficult for any human in the human experience, because we want so deeply to belong, particularly to the family of origin. So when we're cast out, or we perceive that we're in immense danger of shifting, breaking, bending, hurting or harming those relational bonds that keep us safe in many ways, that there's a really ancient part of all of us that will be activated in that process. So what we really want to hone in on here is what Bridgie and I are seeing a lot of around the people that we're working with and the spaces that we're in, which is just how do we do this dance? And what we would love to bring to you is a conversation around this topic of how do I choose me and still hold dear those relationships that I love. And we just want to kind of toss it around a little bit, give you some freedom and some breath, and perhaps some ideas that you can put into play that give you more freedom.
I love the way that you've explained that. And yeah, it is a human experience. And this is why at the moment, we're seeing so much conversation, you and I are, around how do we meet ourselves and our families at Christmas? How do we choose perhaps a new narrative and a new experience of Christmas for our children that is more conscious or aware or, understanding of children's needs, versus not completely upsetting and rocking the familial boat that we've been sailing for, decades perhaps.
Yeah, I love that idea of not rocking the familial boat. So good. Yeah. Also total fantasy, because we kind of are designed to rock the boat.
Well, but, we are. And I think also this time of year really amplifies the family dynamics that you're part of, and perhaps the dominant roles, right? Because if you've got a number of people within a family conforming, then you're going to have, what's labeled the black sheep. And perhaps you may be the black sheep. You may be the one who is, what's termed the cycle breaker. Or you may be the one who is a little bit like the emperor's got no clothes in the family, who's pointing out things that really don't need to be this way anymore. And that can be a really isolating role to play. But it can also sometimes be a role that can be steeped in self-righteousness, which is tricky because that's actually not always authentic either.
So I reckon let's just hone in on those 2 points. One of those is the perception that the peacekeeper has always been our role in the family, or that we perceive ourselves to be the middleman between our partner or another human in the family who's having, difficulty with our parents or another human in the family. And we're just like in the middle, my goodness, and we'll tell everyone the stories of how we're trying to keep the peace and how we're trying to please everyone and no one can ever be pleased. And so like this and so like that. And, like this exasperation, like I have no power. Except there's a huge amount of power wrapped up in you identifying with the role of peacekeeper.
Yeah, and the mediator, and I guess why you need to be in that role, or how you've come to define yourself in that role.
Yeah,
it can feel undefined, but that you're also participating in.
Right. So there's a bigger dynamic, exactly, that you're playing a part in. When you remove yourself from that dynamic, the dynamic dissolves. It can no longer exist. And what we want to center on is the awareness of a larger dynamic and the awareness that you're part of that co-creation of what's happening there. You're playing a role there. And to just be aware that being a peacekeeper often allows us the mindset that says, well, I can't have everything I want, because if I do, it equals danger or destruction of some sort. So I swallow, keep down, don't ask for more than I think I'm deserving of or worthy of, or I'm going to be given. And so there's this suppression of self-authenticity or self-needs or self-desires in service of the other outside of you that is somehow more paramount and I don't know, special, more worthy of needs than our own. So we override our own needs in service of something that we perceive is better or greater outside of us, which is always going to chip away at our self-worth, is always going to send us into spirals of resentment at some time and at some point. So what we would rather you did was recognize that's what's happening, and instead of perceiving for them to win, which I perceive has more benefits than drawbacks to me, I have to lose, I have to swallow down, I have to have less. What does it look like to choose both and create a win-win and love difference, rather than I'm only lovable and loved when I'm the same and do as is pleasing to you, and I am unlovable and cast out and can't love when I am different to you, which is inherently a really awful place to be.
And what you speak of so potently, I think, addresses that inner child work, right? Is that, can I be lovable and loved and worthy when I am no longer playing the same role I've played in this family for X number of years, that I'm no longer predictable, or I'm no longer yes of course, and accommodating to everybody's needs and going with the flow. That, can I have enough courage and to step outside of that and actually go, oh, it's okay for me to take up space over here? It can be terrifying.
Right, but we have to be able to go beyond the good girl and the good boy that receives their validation and worth through external sources.
And to resource yourself with that. And I think for many mothers, especially on a conscious parenting path, who may have definitely identified with aspects of being the people pleaser, really find that they wake up their voice when they have their own children and begin to see how their patterns have played out for them and where they want them to stop. And so they're really offered that question, do I be the good descendant here or the good ancestor?
So break that down.
Or am I going to continue to play the role of the good girl, of the good daughter, of, of course, yes, mum, and I'll accommodate whatever you need, and I know this is how we do things, and that unspoken compliance, versus the good ancestor, which says, okay, this stops here. I'm going to be the leader that my child needs, who no longer unquestionably says yes to things that are no longer serving me. Says yes to things that are no longer a fit, things that are I now recognize are traditions I don't want to participate in anymore, or are unreasonable perhaps travel expectations now that I have a young family. So many mothers must bend themselves backwards to like take a baby here, there and everywhere, or a toddler who really just needs a slow day because of the discomfort of those hard conversations. But do you want to be the leader your child needs, or be convenient for your parents and everybody else around you?
It's so hard, isn't it? Gosh, it's tricky. I mean, look, I can see pieces of myself in that story too, when I had, 2 kids under 3, and it was just, or under 2 even, under 2 kids under 2. And it was absolute hell that year trying to do everything for Christmas. But I never once said, stomped my foot and said, no, I will not leave my house. I went, okay, I'm going to find a way to make this work and keep it flexible. And, it's hard, isn't it? Because part of me wanted to be able to do that, to have freedom. And part of me wanted to be able to say, please meet me here, but didn't know how to.
Yeah. And I think there's a beautiful middle ground to be found there, isn't there? Like it's not all or nothing. It's not like, you all now have to bow to this, like young Buddha in front of me who now the whole family has to conform to. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying, is the 3-hour trip realistic now with a young child?
Yes.
Or is the 3 events in one day realistic now with a young child?
Yes.
Not,
right. Yes, which is exactly said what I wanted to bring it around to, which was, how do we create the win-win here, right? How do we love each other in difference? Because there's a way to say, gosh, I would so love to come to family dinner with you. Gosh, I would love to. And I want you to spend so much time with your grandchild. And I really do want to do that. And I'm absolutely terrified. It's really hard. I get really flustered and overwhelmed when he or she isn't sleeping or is, getting cranky, and I can't feed them and I can't settle them. And there's all that. And I get so stressed in that moment. So you could just leave it at that and let them lead the invitation of how it might look different. Or if they don't, then just being able to go, I love that you want us around. And I also love me for wanting to be a bit gentler with my nervous system. So what I'd really love to do is, would you like to come with us and do that? Or, do you have any other ideas? So just this idea of everybody can have their needs met and it gets to be a win-win, rather than the perception that somebody has to lose in order for somebody to win.
Yeah, and what that often creates, like that perception that somebody has to lose, is it can sometimes create this Mexican standoff where, like, people of the family are like waiting for the next person to make the move, or like people dig their heels in because they're like, so-and-so is not understanding. It just ends up in this kind of conflict where everyone's kind of like staking their claim, not actually meeting each other, not actually listening enough to believe there can be enough for everyone.
Yeah.
There can be a win.
Exactly. This podcast is brought to you by what we have going on in the world that you can jump in on. And Bridgie, what's there for you?
Yes, at bridgetwood.life you can find the Christmas Survival Guide. So it is a 4-week supported email series to really help you feel centered, aligned with your vision at Christmas, and supported in your nervous system so that it can be one where you rewrite narratives that perhaps feel really tired, and that you really find the win-win and the beautiful connection that you're so desiring in your Christmas. And you, Jules?
You can grab my sexy Christmas date. So what you get is an easy to follow, sexy and sensual couples date that comes with a 20-minute guided tantric date workshop video that you get to follow along, press play and follow along. You can gift your partner a special experience or gift each other. Comes with a downloadable PDF guide and a whole heap of sexy playlists. And you can find out more about that at julietenner.love/sexy Christmas. And the other part of that is just to remember that this is such wonderful parenting practice, because the older your kids get, the more they rile against your value system, right? Which is inevitable. So can you literally use this as the practice ground for how do I love you in difference? How can we have two different ways of being or belonging to the world, and it does not make you less lovable? I love you just as much in difference and with difference, and even when it's confronting to my value system.
It's the ultimate practice in how can I keep my heart open here?
Yeah, because
when my mind just wants to shut off because it's just too at odds with my...
Yes, because it is the parenting tool that will save you when you have teenagers. It is folly to think that you're going to have these loved up, delicious relationships because you just have so many shared values and you see the world exactly the same. You've raised consciousness that's more evolved than you. You've given birth.
So they're more often critical thinking. Here to rock the theatre.
Yeah.
Change.
They will see things that you don't. They will herald change that you have as yet been unconscious to. They will have a different way of seeing themselves because you see them through their filter. So, and they're the living expressions of our own internal repressions at the point in time of which we conceived them. So it is such a fascinating practice to me on just remembering, oh, yeah, that's right. My child is still lovable to me when they're different to me or when they're challenging me. I can still find how I love them, which then helps my inner child remember that when I'm having that hard conversation with my mother-in-law or my mother or whoever it is, oh, that's right. I'm still lovable even when I choose difference. And I don't have to fight you for that. I can just be surrendered and grounded in that, right? Like there was something you had said at the start, Bridgie, that was, around that hot version of authenticity versus that grounded, anchored, governed version of authenticity. They're very different experiences.
Yeah. So one of them is the hurt or the anger or the closure that's speaking. It's the part of us that speaks, that believes on some level, well, we can't both win here, and that I'm going to extract myself from this or insert myself from this as a way to not lose love or as a way to not lose my ground. So it's reactive. It's emotionally driven versus that authenticity that you're talking of, which is, oh yeah, okay, I'm still lovable here and they're still lovable here, and I can be connected to me and they can be connected to them, and together we can both get our needs met, we can both win, but I'm not in a fight for it, or I'm not in terror of losing it, and so therefore closing my heart, which is the emotional part speaking.
Oh, yeah, so much of that. And the last kind of track that we wanted to go down here was just the whole wrapped up with a bow concept of you are leading yourself through your life. The worst thing you can do is be complicitous in the setup of the dynamics, which you then have a bitch and a moan about to whoever will listen and say all of the ways and exasperation experiences of how you're not in control and you don't have power and it's because so-and-so is so difficult or they won't bend or blah, and that somehow you're at the mercy, or your experience of life, your choice, your authenticity is at the mercy of someone else. You don't have power here, that you are powerless in how this plays out. And I think that's the worst place to be. What we always want to remember is how much power we have. And how much
power we have, and also too, how much, if we're really honest, that dynamic, even if we get frustrated by it, we are somehow deriving something out of it. Like, maybe it reinforces our position. Maybe it gives us a little dopamine hit around our own worthiness because we compare ourselves to them, right? Like, we're using this. So is it what you really want, or can you find your worth, your purpose, your authenticity in something else that's more aligned with you, rather than perpetuating they're so hard, it's too hard, I have to, I need to, stuff that can come up around some of these responsibilities that we believe that we're tied to in family.
Yeah, truth. So just to pull that full circle is to remember that you are not unlovable when you choose difference, and you can love well in difference when you lead yourself well from a grounded, authentic place. Is I love me for what I need, and I love you for what you need. And that's so cool. You do you, I'll do me. We can love each other from those spaces, and we can come up with a better reality than what we're living right now. So that's where we would love you to consider how you can create more spaciousness and how you can find more of yourself and your power, more of you. How you be at Christmas comes from a very quiet, grounded, almost surrendered place. I really think, that what it looks like to hold sacred space is a very kind of internal, quiet, gentle type of groundedness. It's not necessarily a fierce one. So just to remember, you can totally create that and find that space within yourself and your family unit at Christmas.
So if this has really struck a chord with you, or you would really love to explore it further, please do reach out with your questions, or even, email us with your scenarios, because we do really love the personal emails that, where you share your stories with us, and we get an opportunity to respond to those on the podcast. So you can do that with us at nourishingthemother.com.au. And what's happening with you in your world, Jules?
Well, actually, today, with 12 days to go to Christmas, I just released a sexy Christmas tantric date. So I've put together a guided, just you press play on a video tantric experience that you can gift your partner, or you can gift each other if you want to press play on it twice, and a complete PDF downloadable guidebook on how to set yourself up, how to invite your partner in, considerations on how to set up the environment. So it's actually pretty freaking cool, and I'm really excited about it. Nick and I had so much fun making it. So you can find out more about that at julietenner.love/sexy Christmas. And you, Bridgie?
Amazing. You can find the Christmas Survival Guide at bridgetwood.life, which is your free guide to support you and your nervous system through all things festive season. So really it extends a lot on what we're talking about in the podcast this week. And you can grab that and prepare yourself for the big festive days of celebration and sometimes commiseration, right? So find that at bridgetwood.life. Remember to nourish the woman to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
Thank you so much for listening. We literally couldn't do this without you. Please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively into your life, then head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper.
And if you feel like giving back a little to this free content, please rate us on iTunes or Facebook, all of which helps the podcast reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul.